Before 1950, heart disease was rare. Obesity affected less than 10% of Americans. Then something happened. Procter & Gamble had a problem. They had a waste product, cottonseed oil, cheap, industrial, inedible. So they hydrogenated it, gave it a nice white color, and called it Crisco. Then they did something genius and evil. They gave the American Heart Association $1.7 million. Suddenly, butter was the enemy, and seed oils were heart healthy. Hospitals replaced butter with margarine. Home cooks swapped lard for vegetable oil. And within a generation, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease exploded. That's not a coincidence. Part 3 drops tomorrow.
This story didn't start in our lifetime. It didn't start with World War II, but that's where we'll pick it up. By then, the architecture was already forming. International banks, secret societies, and a growing appetite for global control. One man stood at the intersection of finance and betrayal. Prescott Bush, a banker, a senator, and the patriarch of a dynasty. He was caught financing Hitler through Union Banking Corporation. The U.S. government seized the firm's assets under the Trading with the Enemy Act. But Prescott Bush wasn't punished. He was promoted to the United States Senate. After the war, instead of dismantling the Nazi network, we imported it. Nazi collaborators were brought into the United States to help the CIA, the NSA, and the foundations of the permanent state. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy tried to challenge that growing machine. He pushed back on the CIA, central banks, and endless war. He was shot in the head, in public, in broad daylight. A declassified memo dated days later refers to George Bush of the CIA. Not proof of involvement, but an undeniable presence in Texas, in the shadows of one of America's darkest hours. Lyndon Johnson took power. His policies pleased the military-industrial complex. Vietnam exploded, surveillance expanded, and the permanent state dug in. In 1980, Ronald Reagan wasn't supposed to win. The system backed George H.W. Bush. Reagan beat them, but under pressure from elite families, Reagan took Bush as his vice president, reportedly against his own instincts. 69 days into office, Reagan was shot. The gunman, John Hinckley Jr., his brother, scheduled to dine with Neil Bush the very next day. Coincidence? Perhaps. But once again, the Bush name hovers near the trigger. Reagan survived, but the Bush's influence grew. And in 1991, George H.W. Bush said it out loud. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea. A new world order. A world beyond borders, beyond constitutions, not ruled by voters, but by unaccountable institutions. Then came the successors, Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, Biden. Different parties, same agenda. Trade deals that gutted the middle class, open borders, endless wars, digital surveillance, national sovereignty dismantled by design. They didn't serve America. They served the new world order. And then came Donald J. Trump. For the first time in decades, a president stood for borders, for energy independence, for America first. He became a threat to everything they built, so they attacked him from every angle. Fabricated scandals, 2 impeachments, leaked lies, weaponized intelligence, and still, he survived. Then came 2020, COVID panic, mail-in ballots, courts that refused to hear the case, and suddenly, Biden wins. What followed wasn't a presidency, it was a managed decline, signed by AutoPen, driven by committee, fronted by a man in obvious collapse. In 2024, Trump returned, and just like Kennedy, just like Reagan, they shot him. A bullet to the head, he survived. 3 American presidents stood publicly against globalism. Kennedy, Reagan, Trump, all 3 were shot. Coincidence? Perhaps. But history is rarely that kind, and now, here we are. The illusion is dying, the control is slipping, the people are awakening. The Democratic Party is at its lowest approval in history. Their lies exposed, their crimes unraveling, and what once was mocked as conspiracy is now being read into the record. For generations they planned a future without freedom, but that future is failing. The New World Order is being defeated, and 1776 is returning. My friends, we are all anonymous. We remember the fallen. We speak for the voiceless. And we are not afraid of the truth.
Notice I do not attempt to break away from his grip, but by bending well back, encourage his weight onto his toes. I turn my body, place his arm under mine, and in this position it's quite easy for me to dislocate his wrist, elbow, shoulder. I catch his ankle, place my hand between his shoulders, and kick away his only support. Now I'm going to give him a real throw. I'm gripped in the same manner as before, the tramp not having learned his lesson. This time I draw his body upwards till it's in the form of a hoop. I lie gently on the floor, placing one foot in his tummy. The answer's in the infirmary. As soon as I realize I'm going to be attacked, I hold my bag more firmly to my side. I grip his wrist, draw his arm forwards and upwards, and place my disengaged arm across his body. In this position, it's quite easy for me to dislocate his elbow. Although his other arm is free, it's quite impossible for him to strike me, as I'm nearly. As soon as I feel his arm around my neck, I lean slightly forward, grip his wrist and elbow, and by bending my knees, I lower my center of gravity, roughly speaking my hips below his center of gravity, and by bending sharply forward,